Back in 2019, Madame or Princess Ash was the subject to one of the fastest rises and falls in internet history. She started out as just another commentary channel, pretty much skinwalking Leafy is here, but due to her extensive coverage on people like Onision, she suddenly became the talk of the town. Did it matter to anyone watching that there was nothing notable about her apart from her gender? In the short term, no. But as time passed, Madame appeared to have been hiding her erratic behaviour. In fact, the most interesting thing she would do was the action that caused her downfall. After attempting to dox a 15-year-old over credit and the meltdown that followed, her career was in freefall, and most holdouts left when they found that she had scammed those who had raised money for a lawsuit. That's the story that everyone knows, and it's been retold many times by different creators, yet none of them have said the full story. Madame should have just been another footnote in history, but everything I've been finding after digging through old archives shows a lot more than what we saw. Madame's online footprint goes back years, and throughout there's a recurring pattern. A woman with an unrelenting desire to get attention, getting revenge in whatever way she can, and her actions seem to eclipse what she's most known for. So, take a seat. This is the story behind the female Leafy clone who doxed her artist.
Now, if you're stuck in 2016 calling people Leafy clones, you need to reevaluate your sad life.
She wants to leech off of me for content after I made my video,
And it's going to be a long process, and I am willing to go through it because you will not get away with this. Period.
She hasn't just stolen once, but twice, and then released personal information of a 15-year-old.
You're the one who forgot the credit and cried over one comment. And then you tried to dox them.
She scammed her community through her Patreon, saying that she was going to sue Onision.
Ash had actually hired people from the dark web.
And I realized who it was. I was like, oh, this is Madam. This is like trouble. And I kind of like dipped.
Madame, or Ashley S, was born on February 8th, 2000. Her history is as dubious as ever. She's lied and exaggerated throughout her career. But according to her own narration, her early life wasn't pretty. Madame says she's diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and severe depression. It's possible her upbringing was the cause of this, as she notes her family were abusive. In fact, her recollection of her last day with the family ended in a fight with her stepdad. When the police came and saw her bruises, they apparently neglected to help her and treated her like a criminal. In response, Madame packed her bags, went to the airport, and flew across the country to the middle of nowhere. From there, she would ask strangers for help and then rebuild her life. Keep in mind, she says this happened a few years ago at the time of upload, so she would have been around 15 to 16 years old. It's also worth noting that she said this story in a video where she claims she broke out of a mental facility. It seems harsh now to cast doubt upon this, but as we go on, you'll see where I'm coming from. It doesn't help that she threatens to sue the mental facility in the video, and as we'll find out later, her history of lawsuit threats is shaky, to say the least. Back when she was a young teen, Madame loved watching videos made by people like Leafy is here. If you're a fairly young viewer, you might think this is a little unlikely. I mean, what interest would a teenage girl have in a guy who makes videos bullying kids? But back then, that was exactly par for the course. Leafy had a massive following of teenage girls, people from Tumblr who idolized him. Some of them would even go on to have their own notoriety, like Katie Triggers Me. To put it simply, 2016 was a pretty different time, one where it's hard to escape the ship art of Leafy and his female character Femi. That's the fandom that Madame Group was a part of. For the next 2 years, Madame would go from a fan to a content creator, making typical commentary videos. One thing to note now is that throughout her career, Madame would go on to pretty much skinwalk Leafy. A lot of commentary channels have borrowed aspects of Leafy's content, used it as a jumping off point to develop their own style, and these people are, in my opinion, unfairly labelled as Leafy clones. Madame is different. She was quite literally a Leafy clone. She copied his style, way of talking, type of videos, and even merch. I mean, this is far beyond using inspiration as an excuse. So why did she stand out amongst everyone else? Well, to be blunt and honest, it's because she was a woman. When it came to what she was actually saying, she did not stand out from anyone else. People liked her because the commentary audience was undeniably full of dorky 13-year-old boys who were going through puberty. And that fact didn't sit well with Madame. She would fight for seemingly every inch of her 20,000 subscriber popularity. She would relentlessly argue with other people about her legitimacy as a creator. Sometimes she'd make entire videos ranting against her comment section. It was clear that this kind of stuff got to her.
And to allow your 10-year-old brother to watch cancers such as Leafy shows how much of a up sister and person you are. Alright, Chris, please do us all a favor and open your ears before you tell me to shut up. You clearly didn't listen if you're accusing me of being a up person and accusing me of allowing my brother to watch Leafy. I'm not a controlling person. Policing your siblings and treating them like you're their parent would make you shitty. Now, I know your IQ is below 20, but at least try your best to use your brain before commenting. It's the least you could do. This weirdo slid in my DMs telling me I have potential and that my channel is gonna blow up. Now, if you're stuck in 2016 calling people Leafy clones, you need to reevaluate your sad life.
That excerpt is from an old video made by the YouTuber Simply Dad, someone who would go on to become friends with Madame in early 2019, and what he notes about her behaviour is very interesting. In an interview, Simply Dad recollects that Madame would kind of be all over the place. It's well known she was flirting with another YouTuber known as Muggy, but at the same time she was flirting with other commentary YouTubers, saying if things didn't work with Muggy, she would get with them. She got into calls with YouTubers bigger than her, immediately asking to collab, and those who did usually ended up s***ing her and getting her nudes. I talked to another commentary channel known as OG Leafy who did not date her, but was around when she was active, and his stories seem to echo the sentiment.
Yeah, so she dated Muggy, dude, and like I only talked to bro a handful of times. We had a couple of friends in common, but anytime like she came up, because she cheated on Muggy with Loki.
Really? Holy
Yeah. Yeah, like they were doing like Easting, and I remember because he was bragging to me about getting Madam's nudes. And so yeah, he was like, yeah, actually he did show them to me. I didn't want to be shown this. I had adamantly been like, no, I don't want to see this chick's news. It was not meant for my eyes. Like, to be clear, I was not a participator in trying to spread this. I was very, very against it, but he still like pulled them up on call, and I was just like, dude, like, f off, like that. I don't want to see that.
I guess also I think Tom commented this, that like Turkey Tom, that she would like try to flirt with everyone and tell them specifically like, oh, if things don't work out with Muggy, I'll just f you a VidCon, maybe a VidCon or something.
She was a huge clout chaser. Like that is something that I really remember, because she tried to like hit on Scrubby, but Scrubby blew her the f off. Yeah, actually, yeah, Scrubby vaguely mentioned something about that in a conversation. I remember like she was like, yeah, trying to hit on everybody at the time, and I guess the only person who was down bad enough was Loki.
First of all, I find this interesting because it paints two very different pictures. On one hand, Madame abhors the idea that she's only known for her gender and tries to prove she's not. On the other hand, it seemed like she was wielding her gender, directly using it as a way to get a step up the ladder. Either of these motivations usually make sense, but both at the same time, that to me indicates a total obsession with attention and clout. And this is a conclusion I draw from some of the stories I've been told. To me, it almost seems like she went too far to try and further her career.
He was honestly sending them to anybody that she could use in the future, because from what I heard, that there were several people who had these nudes that she personally sent them to. I remember Cyrus mentioning that she was being weird to him. But like
this is when
Cyrus
he was underage.
Yeah,
this is when he was like underage.
Oh, wait, how old was? I don't even know how old Madame would have been back then.
So I was around 18 or 19 at the time, and she was like 20, 21. Like she was of legal drinking.
She was like 21, 22.
Yeah, because like she was able to drink before Scrubby was, and Scrubby was a year older than me.
Wasn't Cyrus like 14?
So when I met Cyrus, I was 18 and he was like 15. Yeah, he was 15.
I know she used to constantly like playfully flirt with Shriga, who was much more underage than she was. I think he was like 14, 15 at the time. It wasn't like she was interested in anything. It was she's saying it's kind of like keep him on her side. She's done that with a lot of people. Lots.
One of the people that Madame tried to flirt with was the commentary YouTuber Scrubby. Madame and Scrubby met back in a VC in 2019, and according to Simply Dad, she begged him for a Fortnite collab video. Scrubby kind of just ignored her and was working on some other stuff, and Madame became so enraged by this that she concocted a secret plan to ensnare him. A few days later, she would send two girls to flirt with Scrubby and Simply Dad. After this, Madame would confront Scrubby and accuse him of being a pedophile because these girls were underage. This is despite the fact that, first of all, the girls claimed they were adults and only changed their ages after, and secondly, Scrubby also never reciprocated any of the flirting and just ignored them. But that was enough basis for her to falsely smear Scrubby as a pedophile to multiple other people. Obviously, it's a strangely vengeful move for what was such a nothing burger.
Because she tried accusing Tom of being friends with Scrubby. She tried accusing Scrubby of being a pedophile. She tried accusing me of being a pedophile. Like, she literally sent some chick to go hit on me and Tom and Scrubby, and she would lie about her age, and then like hit on us. come back to Madame, she tried to confront me saying like, oh, you're a pedophile. I was like, no, this person told me they were like 18. So, and she told Tom she was 14. Then she told Scrubby she was this age. So like, it's fucked. She wants to leech off of me for content after I made my video, you know, doing Fortnite with Simply Dad, making a video with Turkey Tom and Simply Dad. Imagine if she tried to do the same thing to Scrubby, but then Scrubby didn't want to do it because he just doesn't f with her. And like, look at me, I don't like her. I vocally said that I don't like her. I wouldn't take back what I said about my video, so now she's trying to say all this about me, right? She wants the content, and if she can't get it, then it immediately turns to this person's like an evil pedophile, baby killer, puppy kicker, us saying that she's not lying. I even got her to admit that she was lying and said sorry. She tried to blame it on the 14-year-old, but I was like, dog, you're like friends with her. Like, that's like the biggest giveaway. I was so sus of that person the moment I looked at the mutual friends, and I was like, oh, Ashley's a mutual friend. What is that? Very interesting.
Now, I don't mind if you take some of these statements with a pinch of salt. There's not much evidence, this happened years ago, details may have shifted over time, but everyone who I talked to behind the scenes seems to tell the same story. Madame acted as a sort of pick-me girl who used her status to climb to the top in any way she could. Far before her entanglements with the art community, Madame already had a negative reputation. Simply Dad's impression was that she was a content leech, who went above and beyond for petty revenge, trying to get attention by any means necessary. But how true would those words ring? As we've seen, Madame was desperate to become famous despite not having any content value or even work ethic that could justify that fame, so her route forward was through hopping on trends. In mid-2019, popular commentary and Reddit YouTuber Slazo faced accusations of sexual assault. Madame immediately jumped on it, making a video fuming about the few skeptics of Slazo's accusers.
However, because of the stupid that people are saying, I just feel the need to debunk it because it really just hurts my heart for this poor girl. So first of all, there's some diehard Slazo fans / people that aren't even fans of him. I shouldn't even say people, the incels that aren't fans of him, but just despise women, so they're just on this poor girl.
After Slazo proved himself mostly innocent, Madame would subsequently sink into the background. She purged the tweets and videos about the situation quietly, and no one batted an eye. At least it played to her advantage this time that her audience cared about her voice more than her words, and that would carry her into the next trend. It was during 2019 that the meltdown of Onision had begun. Once a liked YouTuber for his quote-unquote funny videos, Onision had everyone turn on him after allegations of abuse arose. This would lead to some funny but staged mental breakdowns and videos, and it became a content gold rush. Madame was one of the first on the scene, making videos covering Onision's every move and gaining huge amounts of subscribers every step of the way. Again, the subscriber gain wasn't because of any real content value apart from being Leafy but a woman. This was because anyone who covered Onision was getting the adoration of his hate community, but anyone who covered him, including Madame, were facing issues. Onision was constantly taking false copyright claims and strikes against videos, either to profit off them or to make sure they weren't up, and Madame had had enough. She announced she would be suing Onision for these false copyright strikes by flying out to Washington.
I'm going to give updates about this entire process. I am suing him in small claims. I am suing him for approximately 1,500. Originally, I thought it would be 2,000. However, because he is also striking me twice and my video is going down again, it can go up to 2,000 or more because of the income that I am losing. So therefore, this can increase with time. But as of now, I had my roommate print out papers for me. Don't judge me. I don't have a printer here, so I asked him to do it when he was at work, and yeah, I have the King County papers ready to sue him in small claims, and it's going to be a long process, and I am willing to go through it because you will not get away with this, period.
Help fund Onision being sued. FAQ below. Read before commenting. Are you allowed to show Patreon content? Yes, but it's limited. That's why I barely showed anything and mostly talked about the content I saw. Patreon reviews are very much so a real thing, but it's limited. Are you allowed to talk about legal issues online? Yes, I simply explained what I learned about suing in small claims and publicly stated extra details. It's no secret that suing in small claims is a thing. I see no issue explaining it to my subscribers because if I were vague, donating would feel like a scam, at least in my eyes. You deserve to know these details. Like I said in the video, any future progress I make will be updated to Patrons only. I'm refraining from further public updates until I go to court. To the diehard anti-O's, this was fascinating. You have to keep in mind, this is before Chris Hansen really got involved in the situation and Onision tried to take him to court. This was a move for legal action against Onision in the blossoming of the entire situation. But looking back in hindsight, there are a few glaring issues. Obviously, no one raises funds for a lawsuit through Patreon. That in itself is incredibly dodgy and non-committal, and it's near impossible to refund people if it doesn't happen. Additionally, it's hard to even discern whether Madame would be able to win the case against Onision. At least with the specific video, she did use Onision's Patreon, which is paywalled content. I'm not against her doing it, but from my admittedly primitive knowledge of copyright law, I doubt she'd be able to defend it in court. Regardless, she had announced it, made several videos discussing it, and said it was going to happen. As the months rolled by, Madame would rise from around 20,000 subscribers in late 2018 to being on the precipice of 50,000, having doubled her sub count. Her videos regularly went past the 100k view mark. It seemed like her newfound audience finally appreciated her for who she was. Madame had, through a godsend of pure luck, made it. But there were still doubts hanging around. For one, the Onision situation wouldn't last forever. Eventually, people would move on, and what would happen to Madame then? Not only that, but as time went on, her updates about the Onision lawsuit became less and less frequent.
Oh my god, I remember that. Dude, that was so weird to me. It was immediately when I saw her making videos about that and talking about that, it was obviously just a thing to get her, like, just relevant. Because everybody knows that you get into drama, that's how you boost your I don't think she was ever actually planning on that. She mentioned, like, lawyers, this, and that, but there was never any actual proof of her doing anything besides maybe, like, a free consultation you can Google set up.
People started to become anxious, and the tipping point came soon after. Slimurs Choreotic was a 15-year-old artist who had most of her following on Instagram. She was also a fan of Madame's content, who gained her attention after she posted some fan art. Madame would soon become friends with Slimurs, commissioning her for some character stills she could use in her videos. Unfortunately, Slimurs, being only 15, didn't have a PayPal to accept payment, so the two agreed that Madame would pay her through credit. Now, payment via credit or exposure is particularly frowned upon in the art community, and for good reason. It's essentially artists giving their work for a profit that isn't guaranteed. If the videos and the channel subsequently flop, then you basically get nothing out of it. And especially for multiple character stills, this is incredibly generous for Slimurs to do. But at the end of the day, this was an alternative. Slimurs didn't have a method for payment, and both parties ultimately agreed on this. While Slimurs was working on the stills, having done only one or two, Madame decided to take and use them for her next video's thumbnail. The issue is that whilst doing this, she had not credited Slimurs at all. The entire centre of Madame's payment method, and she hadn't even done it. Noticing this, Slimurs posted a comment and an Instagram story saying that she would like to be credited, but her comments were nowhere near inflammatory, with her even remarking how it was nice that her art was in a Madame video. This led to a private conversation between Madame and Slimurs. Okay, firstly you should DM me, because by the off chance I stop reading YouTube comments, then I wouldn't have seen. I'm just gonna give credit instead of a verbal shout out, whatever you prefer is fine by me. Also, what's strange is you respond to the thumbnail here, but then just now ask me to do this? But okay, take your credit. The shoutout then, lol. I wanted to pay you anyway. Shoutout / credit was because you didn't have a PayPal. No one credits their commission unless it's free / complimentary by the artist. Then of course credit, which was the plan, but okay, I got you. I mean credit in the description of your videos. Yeah, that's the plan. I said I got you. Boom, done. Just DM me because I stopped reading comments after 48 hours. Thank you, that's all I wanted. Not hating, but it was just a thing I would like. Not angry, just letting you know. Yeah, of course, but it's kinda wacky you wouldn't just DM me after we've had phone calls and stuff. Yeesh. By the off chance I stopped reading comments, like, what would you expect? Had this been commented a day later, I wouldn't have seen it. I just got weirded out. You wouldn't tell me directly, but alright. Haha, OMG, I have an idea. Lol, you could sign a contract with my merch agents and take a cut from it. But you need a PayPal or whatever. But yeah, just a thought for the future. No, it's okay. There's nothing else you can do for me currently. I'm going to college next year, so one day I could get a PayPal. But I wouldn't mind working for you currently at all. I'm doing this all out of joy and fun. Yeah, since you told people to come after me and comment on my social media about crediting you, even though I literally agreed on giving you a verbal shout out, then we discussed long-term crediting, my about section, etc., I don't want to work with you anymore. It's apparent you're still talking about me, or telling people, because now I'm getting recent comments about it. So bye. Thanks for making fan art. You seemed nice at first. Ashley, could we just discuss this normally instead of running off like this? Those were my friends. I told them to apologize sooner. I also have friends, you know. I never wanted to attack you. Obviously, we both did a mistake together. I'm pretty sure if your stuff wasn't credited, you would vent about it a little, at least. I understand it was messed up for me to comment it, but it was never an attack. I told you simply and calmly and we discussed things. Instead of making an announcement or possibly saying something, you got angry at me and blocked me on Discord. So could we please just talk normally instead of running off? It's worse leaving things on a sour note. But if you do not want to work with me, that's okay. But please, for the love of God, do not say something like, oh, one of my artists sent their fans to attack me or make a video. I never wanted this to happen at all. I understand that you had terrible experiences with other people or artists, but one oopsie doesn't mean they're a scum forever. Literally stop talking to me. I've never in my life worked with someone so unprofessional. Commenting instead of DMing someone that you have personal contact with, making posts on a second Instagram account and sending people after me. Literally never talk to me again. Block me. Leave me alone. You mean when I said I hope I get credit next time in my story? I can show you it if you'd like. I don't watch your stories. This is according to some comment on my channel. Do you want me to show you? I can. I actually said don't attack her at the next slide. You didn't have a PayPal when I asked for prices. You were like, no, I'm a fan. I want to make these. And I said, no way. I would feel bad. Let me verbally shout you out. Then I forgot to credit in a description whilst working on my video you were going to get that shout out from. I have made it right. DM'd you instead of commenting on your public posts. Then you send people after me. You are the most unprofessional prick I've ever worked with. I'm never texting you again. Ashley, why do you keep acting like I want to cancel you? Seriously, are you always this angry and short-tempered when something like this happened? I know I sound like a jerk, but I'm literally trying to talk things out, and you keep ragging at me. I even told you I was going to show you the post because it clearly wasn't an attack. I wanted to let others know who I worked for. I cannot control my following and it sucks, but it was never meant to be hate. That's why I'm talking to you personally. We literally talked things out a moment ago, and you're bringing it up as if it was a problem. I even apologized for saying it in the comments. I hope the irony isn't lost on you that this is a commentary channel, a Leafy clone gunning for the head of someone and holding them responsible for the actions of their audience. As if your videos where you bully people don't have a worse effect or encourage people to do it more. Madame probably could have held out on those negative comments if she just waited like a day and logged off, or just not read the comments at all. Yet she's having this impulsive and childish reaction. After these DMs, Madame would retitle the video's description to credit an unprofessional. A few days later, she published the video talking about Slimurs, rehashing much of the same from the DMs. This video actually opens with an infamous skit where Madame calls the police on furries that were harassing her.
911, what's your emergency? Hello? There's furries after me. There's furries lying about me. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm getting attacked. What do I do? This is an emergency. Okay, I need you to calm down. You are speaking too fast. What is the problem? Okay, I'm sorry, but what I'm trying to say is that there's thousands of furries attacking me based on fabrications. What do I do? Yeah, I don't really know. It's just some random furries that are making fabrications about me. So, well, what do I do? They're saying I'm canceled. They're saying they're gonna sue me or have me sued, and they wish that I get sued.
Though it's obviously satirical in nature, it does represent Madame's views in a video, as she accused Slimurs of harassing her. Total victim complex. The most that Slimurs did was ask her friends on her private Instagram vent account to comment on Madame's video asking for credit. Maybe it wasn't the best method to get someone's attention, but again, this person's 15, it kinda makes sense. And even if Madame didn't know about Slimurs' real age as people have debated, I don't get how a commentary channel who bases their entire identity on one of the internet's biggest bullies is crying about comments and having this impulsive and childish reaction. If Madame resolved the issue, said it was a mistake, and then not read the comments for a bit and logged off for a day, this all could have been avoided. Then Madame jumped on Instagram to accuse Slimurs of lying about a past sexual assault. There was no proof to support this claim, and Slimurs refute this by sending legal papers to the art YouTuber Norny. This situation had just gone from 0 to 100 in a matter of days. Much like other art commentary YouTubers, Norny was stunned at how fast Madame was just digging her own grave. Other creators like Creepshow Art tried to tell her to cut it out, before abandoning ship after she didn't listen to their advice. It seemed as the days rolled by, Madame's comments about Slimurs being unprofessional continued to age worse and worse. One night, Madame was on Instagram bragging about her bank account when she remembered something from her past conversation with Slimurs. Whilst they were trying to sort out payment, Madame and Slimurs decided to trade phone numbers. Now, Madame felt that everything was fair game. She first offered, and then posted, Slimurs' phone number. Thankfully, the number was a Google Voice number, meaning that not everything could be tracked from it, but the intention was clear. Okay, usually this is the part of the video where I drop the intermission and tell you to subscribe, but I actually have stuff to tell you about. We have a new Discord server. Join below, link in the description, just opened and join now. With this action, Madame had turned everyone against her. This situation has escalated from a tiny dispute over credit to an attempted doxing. And the only person to blame for this escalation was Madame herself. This shouldn't have gotten anywhere near career-ending heights, but thanks to her own pettiness, malice, and inability to let things go, it did. And the backlash from this was immense. Madame's video on Slimurs would gain 24,000 dislikes and criticism from everyone. Just as she had hit the 50,000 subscriber mark, she went back under, losing 4,000 subscribers in a matter of days. But instead of taking a step back, Madame only seemed to keep her foot on the gas as she drove her career further into the ground. Amongst all the criticism, a few people went out and started trolling her. She'd been a big fan of the rapper XXXTentacion, even making a cover to one of his songs. But more relevant to this situation, Madame had made some art of XXXTentacion when he died. Another 15-year-old kid decided to go back through a post and comment "he's dead" on this post. In response, she went through his post and made fun of his close friend who died. Obviously, there's a huge difference between making fun of the death of a controversial public figure who you listen to versus making fun of the death of a private citizen and close friend. Then this person brought up that Madame had previously made a video about how during high school, a friend showed her a recording of a special needs student in a sexual act as a way to bully him.
She actually uploaded like all of her Snapchats from freshman year. Like she saved all of them and then she put it in a playlist called like my freshman year. And like I remember she linked me this video and she was like, "Hey, remember this?" And she put like a little laughing emoji, so I click on it and it's literally the Snapchat of him getting off to pony. And I was like, holy you actually uploaded that. That's not something you put on YouTube, but I didn't tell her that. I just sent her a laughing emoji and that was that. I mean, we don't talk anymore because I don't go to that school, but still, like, Jesus.
So of course, Madame followed that up by arguing with him on Instagram and threatening him with a lawsuit. Madame's rampage finally came to an end when she stated that she had to delete her social media, was now homeless, and had no internet. Again, remember she was flexing her bank account a couple of weeks ago. Additionally, this rest period gave content creators the opportunity to make videos on our actions and reflect on the past. It was during this point that another question came to those who were speculating. What happened to the Onision lawsuit? Updates on it had been thinning out, and considering that Madame had scammed someone out of their payment, YouTubers such as Repsion were suspicious. How did the money get there? How was it handled? I mean, people claimed that $100 patrons would get her nudes, and is that really an appropriate perk alongside lawsuit funding?
Did you ever hear about the where she said $100 patrons get nudes?
What the
Yeah, some guy.
Whoa.
Some guy came into my server with a screenshot of their DM conversation. I don't know if it looks real or not because it's on a Android and the resolution is small, but she's like $100 Amazon card for your next month's pledge, and I'll send you old nudes I took a few months ago. Would be interesting.
Oh, and
Oh my God.
some fresh off the press new ones? You get some old ones?
I heard apparently $100 patrons would get her nudes. Is that true?
A few.
On October 9th, 2019, Madame uploaded Apology for Everything, which wasn't an apology at all. This title, again borrowed from Leafy, was the prelude to a 2-hour-long video that's 30-minute gameplay and 1 hour 30 black screen. Everyone saw that and said, if you're not putting effort in your video, I'm not watching it. And besides, it rambled on for ages about other topics, mostly the harm of cancel culture in general, which these types of people tend to do after they get in drama, despite peddling the same sentiment for years. Besides, this video wasn't up for long anyways. Madame used these same stills she got from Slimurs without credit, leading to Slimurs' mom stepping in and issuing a copyright strike. The only real thing in this video that wasn't mentioned before, or is actually important, is that Madame states she will no longer be updating people on a lawsuit due to people questioning her intent.
This experience makes me not want to release any further updates about my lawsuit until the internet is ready to give out the guilty until proven innocent mentality. And while in my last Onision video, I did touch on the fact that I made some mistakes and whatnot, but it was very brief, I wanted to explain the process and my very few mistakes in depth and like just go through the entire process of how this happened and why, and talk about why suing in small claims is so important for small creators and all these things. but honestly, after this experience, I feel like I don't owe it to anyone. Even though it would have made a really good video, as of now, I just don't owe anyone anything. From this day forward, I refuse to give an update about the lawsuit. Expect no video from me even if I successfully sue him. Maybe one day people will change and then I can share to the world something inspiring that can inform and help other small creators. But until then, expect nothing.
Again, this is a strange comment to make, especially when showing the receipts for small claims court is pretty easy to prove. The more this went on, the more it seemed like Madame had just scammed the entire community. Rumours started spreading around that she hadn't used the money for a lawsuit, but instead flew to Washington to see a concert. And amidst all this, Onision would recognise the whole situation and take a victory lap of sorts. In all this insane drama, Onision had been made to look good. On the 30th of October 2019, Madame posted a video titled "The art community has a lying problem," in which she accuses her merchandise artist of going after her.
I got an email from my fan fiber agent in regards to the art that I paid for, and he stated that the artist is trying to get my art off of my merch site because I apparently don't have permission to use it. So I had to get all the screenshots of this artist sending me the art and then our conversation logs where we discussed the commercial use and that they're completely cool with it and how excited they were for their art to be on a merch site. On top of that, I had to provide screenshots of my PayPal transaction with this person because, like I said, I paid for this art. The artist knew that it was for a merch site. They were excited about it going live and even said they wanted to purchase a hoodie for themselves when it went live. So I had to showcase those screenshots on top of the PayPal transactions and be like, yo, this is my art, I paid for it. What would motivate someone to lie about this? Why I think this person lied is because they saw that it could get them a lot of attention. I think that they saw what happened to the person that made up an entire story about me and fabricated everything, including evidence, and it's quite sad that people do this, but that's besides the point. They saw that that person gained a lot of, I guess, like, attraction, or what do I fucking call this? The liar gained a lot of publicity for it. So the artist that I commissioned, like I said for the millionth time, that knew this was for my merch, that said their art is for commercial use, or their commissions are for commercial use. You get the point. So why would they lie about this when they got payment and everything was fine? I think it was for attention. So now they're fabricating a story that they were never paid and I didn't have permission to sell it as my merchandise and all this stuff, and claiming that I mistreated them and all this when that's not true. I find this quite sad.
The artist in question, Makafua, responded to the video in a Twitter thread. In this thread, she states that she chose not to associate with Madame after the Slimer situation, and in response, Madame would remove her credit. Pretty petty stuff. Makafua responded by trying to take down only the icon art that Madame used, none of the merch. She claims there was nothing she did with fanfiber, and challenged Madame on why she didn't show the supposed email sent in the first place. Additionally, in Madame's video, she shows Makafua's private business email, again leaking more personal information. On the same day, the YouTuber Repsion would drop a 45-minute video on Madame. In this, he drops DMs, holds her accountable, and most importantly, questions the lawsuit. As Repsion had been in legal issues with Onision before, he was the perfect person to give his perspective on this, and the issue became far more known. We also learned that after Madame's video on Onision's Discord server, she publicly took shots at Repsion for doing the same premise. However, before the video was made, Madame had reached out to Repsion on copying him, and was given a whole Google Drive of his Patreon content. It seems she only went to Repsion because he reviewed the Google Drive before she did. But with Repsion's video posted, vital questions raised about the lawsuit, and unlikely possibility that refunds would be issued, how much did she get away with? Well, some people believed it was a couple of grand, Repzilla reported it was $7,000, others have come to me and said it was high as $20,000 or even $60,000. The reality is that to this day, we don't know how much Madame made off with, but we know she made off with something, and there was never any lawsuit. On the 8th of November 2019, Madame would take down all her Onision videos. By this point, she had hit the 40,000 subscriber mark, meaning she had now lost 1/5 of her peak audience. A few days later, she would change her channel name to Princess Ash, which wouldn't do much to ease the channel decay. Madame's activity through December became sparse. For her, it may have seemed like the controversies were over and she'd weathered the storm. But that all changed on January 11th, 2020. It was on that day that Madame announced she was doing streams to raise money for charity, lending a hand following the recent fires in Australia. She would be doing these streams with her friend and Discord co-owner, Wang, or God of Wang.
Alright guys, so I have a friend and his name is Lee.
What up?
And he lives in Australia, and he pinged me today in my private server and was like, hey, I have a proposition. And I was like, sure, not really expecting that it would be about Australia. And he said that we should do charity streams together. And I figured that we could not only do 2 charity streams on Twitch this Friday, but I could also do a video just spreading awareness. On top of that, all the revenue that I make in this video will be donated.
And although the stream went off well and money was raised, there was a lot of backlash in the comments. Madame hadn't given any updates on what was now widely accepted as a bogus lawsuit, and she was the person promoting a charity stream. They were rightfully skeptical. Updates were given 3 days later when someone would post on God of Wang's behalf. This person said that Wang was doing charity streams and only asked Madame to help because they were friends. The reality is that Madame made the video about the live stream in a bid to make herself look good. After it got backlash, she decided she wasn't going to help with the stream and dropped him as a friend. Madame would then go around and accuse Wang of being friends with a pedophile. The action that constituted such a horrific label, Wang's friend complimented the kid's character and called it cute. Again, do you see why so many people say that she tried to smear Scrubby? For the record, Wang's stream managed to raise $300 Australian, all of which went to charity. Unlike Madame, he was able to provide a proper paper trail and seems more like a well-intentioned third party that was kind of taken advantage of. On January 16th, 2020, God of Wang would go into Repzilla's channel for an exclusive interview. As a former close friend of Madame, Wang's insight led to insane revelations about Madame as a person. The public generally saw her as a vindictive, shitty, manipulative doxer. Wang's claims made her look like an utter psychopath. Firstly, Wang discussed the whole situation with charity streams and her scams, revealing that Madame spent $4,000 on a Fendi purse. He also reveals that during 2019, there was another situation where Madame risked a controversy by stealing art like she did with Slimurs. Wang's intervention was the only reason she avoided that. But that's not what we're here for. It turns out that all the way back in 2018, Madame had falsely painted one of her ex-boyfriends as a stalker. She then used that as justification to post his phone number and send people to his house, posting a picture of them at his door to her Instagram. She also claimed she'd already filed police reports against him, but according to Black Wolf Company, who checked for police reports in her area, this was not true. Madame's behavior had gone far beyond online drama and credit. She was now endangering people's lives.
Well, I heard from the person in question and the friend of that person that Ash had actually hired people from the dark web to go to, we'll call him X number 1, to X number 1's house to take photos. Now, that's from what I can see is true. There is Instagram stories from Ash saying, like, with that X number 1's house, his phone number, his city or town, and it wasn't even just it wasn't even a photo from like Google Earth, which scared them. It had recent Halloween decorations up, which you can't just get off the internet. You kind of got to go to the house to take photos.
Madame also previously vented on Discord about how she was going to the town of another ex-boyfriend to try and kill him. This time she was only talked down from the ledge by her Discord mods. I'm gonna do it. I was debating with myself about it, pretty much doing anything I could to think rationally. At this point, it's not irrational, it's just an uncontrollable urge. My life and his. I'm just gonna do it, LMFAO. I hope this situation gets massive online. Might make some sort of YouTube news. I never even cared about being on the news. I never understood why killers wanted clout for their actions. Lol, kinda gay. But yeah, I'm like, damn, I bet hella people will find out. Okay, bye, rant over. I'll miss you, sorry I can't control it. After Wang's interview, that was pretty much the end of Madame's relevance to the wider public. Of course, she would continue to make videos, first posting commentary and then moving to VR, but at that point, no one really cared. Her channel continued to decay throughout the year, with a massive amount of interest in South Korean culture and media. Some have even said she took the Patreon money so that she could move to South Korea. Her last hurrah was the decimation of her career, when she was terminated in November 2020. In fairness to her, I don't believe this was legitimate, but more just mass flagging her videos, and it only went through because this was COVID times, and YouTube left all their strike reports to bots. So, with us now looking over everything, what can we even make of Madame? Well, I'd like to bring you back to the near beginning of this video, as I went over Madame's early life, her recollections, her unrealistic backstory, the lawsuit against the mental facility. I still don't believe that Madame really did hitchhike and rebuild her life at age 15, but I'm open to believing that she suffered from borderline personality disorder. It definitely adds to the swings and moods between being totally unhinged and neurotic to totally silent. But even if she does suffer from that, those who have it at least have their limits. I don't think Madame was particularly born evil, but for me it's how her chasing for clout and wanting to become her idol completely transformed her, and showed everyone that she shouldn't have got it in the first place. Whilst it's important to acknowledge the origins of how people like this come about, it does not excuse them of their responsibility with their actions. When you leave behind a history of lying, doxing, scamming, threats and attempts on people's lives, at some point you have to take the blame. No mental illness will make me overlook her endangering the lives of others on numerous occasions. But at least in her endless search for an identity that wasn't being just another Leafy clone or another woman making videos, she did cement her place in history. Her place of being totally overreactive, vindictive, and indeed psychotic. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe and stay toasty.